Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about cards. And I have a question for David.
Oh, another question for me. So this is good. I love when people ask me questions.
Yeah, how do you stay so handsome is the question.
Well, that's a great question. You know how I do that, Ted? I visit patreon.com.
Oh, okay.
And I support my favorite podcasts through there, of which Card Talk is one.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So, for those people who are interested in supporting the show and helping us do whatever it is that we actually do here, that would be great. And especially in these theme months, we take February. This is a second February in a row that we've taken a theme and run with it. This is our couples February. It's always good to get a bunch of support. So thank you to all of those people who support us, including Daniel and David, who, just to let you know, I met David at Con of the Rings. He works as a, I'm not trying to be insulting. His title may be slightly different, but he works at the Chicago Public Library as a librarian, doing important things in the library. I don't want to call him a librarian necessarily, but it's pretty cool. So if you run into David, you live in Chicago, and you go to the Chicago Public Library.
He's an archiver of great knowledge.
Yes,
and
I'm not. He's just a really interesting guy to talk to, and I met him and his wife and his child at Con of the Rings. So, David, thank you so much for being awesome. And then we have other patrons: Joseph and Kyle and Lewis and Mike and Dominic and Phil and Rob and Robert and Sean. Who are all our patrons. So thank you so much for supporting the show. And that was enough of an intro. If you're interested in supporting us, I guess I should give you the website. It's right down there. Go to patreon.com/cardtalk2018 and help us out. So anyways, Grant, Couples February. What couple are we going to talk about now?
We are talking about a couple that has just recently been released in the Shadows of the East. We are talking about the 3-cost, 2 willpower, 2 attack, 2 defense, 3 hit point Gollum or Smeagol.
Right.
You cannot have restricted attachments, shuffle 2 copies of Stinker into the encounter deck, and all that good stuff. After you travel a location, raise your threat by 1 to draw a card.
I was going to say, so Ted, you would think that Smeagol, we may work with Sam or Frodo, but that's easy couples to work with. So Ted, what is the couple who's the other part of the Smeagol couple here?
Well, the other half to our themed show of couples is really the only one true thing that Gollum loves, and that is the One Ring itself. So we're talking about the One Ring player card attachment. It has the traits Artifact, Ring, and Master. It's restricted, immune to non-master card effects. It has a setup text attached to a hero you control to search your deck for a master traded card, add that card to your hand, and shuffle your deck. Your threat elimination level is reduced by 5. If the One Ring leaves play, the players lose the game. Oh, raising the stakes.
And you're going to buy those stakes with your master card. Okay. I can see this joke running through the whole thing. So our famous couple is Smeagol and the One Ring. And so this one's a little more difficult. Some of our shows that we've done are a little easier to deal with, or, but the problem is that Smeagol can't actually have the One Ring attached to him, which I think is a brilliant design decision.
Because let's face about it, if they did, the entire community would complain about it. Wouldn't you be mad? You're like, you can play the One Ring on Gollum. That thematically doesn't make any sense, so I'm mad.
There's actually no point in any of the Legendarium that Gollum or Smeagol actually wears the ring. He doesn't do it in Riddles in the Dark. He never does it in Fellowship, because Smeagol isn't actually a character in the Fellowship until in that book, and then in the Two Towers, he's a big deal, but it's always around Frodo's neck. And then in the last one, he wrestles it from he bites off Frodo's finger. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
He bites off Frodo's finger, but he actually never puts it on. And so thematically,
Incorrect.
Oh, really? Go ahead, Mr. Loreman.
He does actually use the ring. It's how he's shunned from his people. He uses the ring to get secrets.
But that's the history of how he attained the rings. I'm talking about when he is in those parts of the movie. Like, of course, he's worn the ring in the past, and we get a brief glimpse of how he has worn the ring, but never as they are adventuring.
No, not as they are adventuring.
Right. And I think that's the thematic. So stop ruining my thunder, Grant. Taking all your dark knowledge and ruining my thing here. I made it a thing for 2020 to become more learned in Lord of the Rings like stuff, and so now I feel like every time I'm going to throw it out, Grant's going to correct me on something. So maybe I'll just not try to be the lore master of the show. Anyways,
I only correct you so you can get better.
Right. Right. As a teacher, I can totally see this. So you can't put the One Ring onto Smeagol because he can't have attachments. But I think that these are a good pair, at least on the surface, because Smeagol's starting threat is 3. So you're already reducing your starting threat level, and your final threat, your elimination level goes down to 45 for most scenarios. There's some in the saga that are, you go up to 100 or whatever. But I mean, for the most part, you're reducing your threat. So I think in that way they're a pair. Plus they're a thematic home run if you're going to play them together. But I guess now we're going to spend some time talking about how do we get this to work in a deck? Like, how does this work? So Grant, go ahead. I'm putting you on the spot here because you put me on the spot. No, you didn't put me on the spot. I'm just kidding. But I love you, man.
Well, bearing in mind I haven't played with either of these cards because I haven't got a Shadow in the East yet. Going off the basis, I generally run in a fairly low cost deck. So, for example, Smeagol, Elrond, and Glorfindel from the Spirit Sphere.
It's like a fairly low threat cost deck, like
it's
Smeagol, Elrond. I just wasn't expecting Elrond being the second hero out of your mouth there.
It's 21 threat.
Right.
So it is a low cost deck, and I knew I'd shock David with that choice, so I thought even better.
Yeah.
But no, running those 3 heroes, it gives you access to all the allies cards because of the fact Elrond can pay for allies from any sphere. You have low threat with Elrond and with Glorfindel and Smeagol, have access to threat reduction, and access to innate card draw with Smeagol's ability to travel and increase your threat to draw card. Plus you have the reduced threat elimination level by the One Ring. And then if you run with some of the master cards, you can, for example, if you're running Inner Strength, you can then give your, say, Elrond, for example, +1 defense. And then if a shadow card is activated, you can exhaust the One Ring and raise your threat by 1 to cancel a shadow effect just triggered during an attack that attached heroes defending, or you get the power of command, which gives you +1 willpower, or plus another willpower if you exhaust the One Ring and raise your threat. There's so many different things that you can do with the One Ring, and with these new master cards that have come out that would benefit from running on a low cost deck, because most of them have the threat increase.
And I think that that's really what this this conversation is. It's obviously you need to run another hero in order to put the master ring onto that hero when you're running Smeagol. But what else? So what master card is the one that works the best? And then how do you maximize Smeagol's ability in when you're playing the one ring? Is there a card that's been released yet that helps use that one ability? So Ted, where are you going with this sort of this couple?
Sure. Grant hit on a lot of great points. If you're talking strictly like what is the most powerful, I'd say Lore Aragorn is like number one choice, because Lore Aragorn's ability is to reduce your threat back to your starting. So if you pick the two lowest starting heroes in the game, which is now Smeagol at 3, and the next would be either in that deck Merland or Spirit Glorfindel are both 5. Your starting threat then is 20. And you can play the one ring on Aragorn and fish out the ruling ring, I believe, is the master effect, which readies your hero and gives you +1 stats. So that could be quite powerful. I don't know if you have them all.
Sorry, the ruling ring is the one that cancels an attack by anything other than a non-Nazgul.
Gotcha.
You
Okay.
choose one non-Nazgul. Unless it's immune to player card effects. The Nazgul, which aren't immune to player card effects, are immune to that card. The one that you're thinking of is the Ring of Power, I think.
The Ring of Power.
+1 to everything.
Yeah, so because Aragorn's already got a strong stat line, right? So
right.
he could defend, and then you could ready him and give him an extra attack or something, or quest, and then defend. But that lets you, it's almost unfettered use of Gollum's ability. Like every turn, if you're traveling, you can raise your threats, draw an extra card. And then once you get close to like 42, 43, if you want to push it to 44, you can if you somehow get there, you can bounce back down to 20 and then keep going, And
then just do it all over again, right?
And then just do it all over again.
Right.
So that's probably the single most combo, I'd say. Lets you safely skirt the line with that, threat elimination level, because the ruling cards too, or the master cards, excuse me, those also raise your threats by when you use them.
Right. Actually, just to clarify for everybody that's out there, is that the ring itself doesn't do anything positive for you. The ring itself only lowers your threat elimination level by 5, which isn't very beneficial. It's the other cards that you put in your deck because you're playing the one ring, like the events and now these attachments that are coming out, that actually help you do stuff. So, and the one ring allows you to fetch one of these from the very beginning of the game. So having that fetch is super powerful, because you can start the game with, an enemy that can't attack you, or, like something along those lines, or an attachment that you can play right off the rip, because at least as of right now, the attachments are 1 cost. So
yeah, there's been two spoiled MasterCard attachments, one in the Spirit Sphere and one in the Leadership Sphere. So, and those, I wonder if they have
the Inner Strength and
Power
of
Command. So the one for the City of Ulfast hasn't been ruined, or has it been ruined? Hasn't been wrath and ruined. The one for City of Ulfast hasn't been spoiled. We don't know much about that second pack. There's or maybe we do know a ton about that second pack. We don't know what the MasterCard is that's in that second pack, but I assume that they're going to have one for each sphere coming out, one attachment for each sphere.
That's a guess. But both of them seem to have pretty strong effects.
Canceling a shadow effect is crazy.
Yeah, the Spirit one gives you +1 defense, and I think you can exhaust the attachment, and then exhaust the ring to cancel a shadow effect, right?
Right. Exactly. 5 ways in your threat by 1.
Yeah, that seems okay.
Right. And the thing is, now I'm not trying to be the naysayer, but that's only a one time because you have to exhaust the one ring in order to use it. So you can't ready an attachment at least yet. So you can use it once. Not that you would want to necessarily use it more than once, but I'm just like, if you put readying on Baragon, you can ready Baragon a million times.
Yeah,
or the lamp the what's the silver lamp that allows you to see the one, and then anyways, we're getting off track here.
Sure. Any other hero that has built-in threat reduction? So actually, as you mentioned, I was going to mention Spirit Baragon. His ability is once you defend to reduce your threat by 1. So that helps canceling out your threat raising from Smeagol's ability to draw cards. Baragon is not a great target to put the one ring on. Because it soaks up one of his restricted slots, and he wants weapons and armor and things like that to defend.
Right.
But he could be still good in the lineup to help that.
Yeah, and I think that Falco is interesting because Falco is lore, so it's in sphere with Smeagol and can help you keep your threat low. Although Falco doesn't do much. You get to sack them off and lower your threat by 7, but whatever.
Well, still, but if you put in, if you want to run something like, like Spirit Frodo or something, right, and then you like another Hobbit character, Spirit Frodo would be at 7, and then Falco comes in at -2, right? So then he's 5.
Right.
So you have 7, 5, so 15 threat.
15 threat.
Like, that's pretty low. And again, but you have 30 threat before you get close to your elimination.
Right. Right. And that's without using, and you're also, if you're doing that Spirit, Frodo is also in sphere for threat reduction. Not that you need to run a ton of it, but at least it helps you get to that point, right? Like if you are nervous.
The other one too, the Word of Command, that one you can use it to boost. It gives the hero you attach it to +1 willpower, and then I believe you exhaust it and the one ring and raise your threat to give all your other unique characters, I think, +1 willpower.
Right.
So off the bat makes Smeagol's questing more efficient, right?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. This is what we're talking about. Like when we had, you weren't part of the show, Ted, when we had Beorn on from Hall of Beorn, but making a deck to build around Beorn is hard because of all of Beorn's restrictions. But once you get into that headspace, you can definitely build a deck that really helps Beorn do Beorn things.
Yeah,
and that's what is going on here is you have to get in that headspace where you can do things that help Smeagol do Smeagol things. And this is one of those times because Smeagol has a kind of nondescript stat line at 2-2-2-3. So how do you boost it when you can't have attachments? Well, you have to use other things that boost attachments globally. And so this power of command or you
can't just think locally to the hero. You got to think globally. 100 points if anyone gets that quote.
Is that, it's think globally, act locally is the recycling quote. But that's the only thing that came to mind for me.
Okay. I was specifically referring to the movie Biodome with Pauly Shore.
Oh, Biodome. My God. Holy cow, Mr. 90s, man. That's totally awesome. Okay. That was a whole horrible Pauly Shore reference. But,
hope that makes it into the final cut. David's Pauly Shore.
Right. I can't. It's interesting because, as far as I know, there's not a MasterCard that cancels, or that, let's see, that's able to. Yeah, there it is. It is the Master Ring allows you to cancel the effects of an encounter card just revealed from the encounter deck. So you can. So on your setup, here's what we're doing. This is what makes it a couple, is you can play the one ring on another hero. You pull the Ring of Power out, or sorry, not the Ring of Power, the Master Ring. And now you have the Master Ring in your hand. And then if you pull a Stinker, then you can cancel Stinker with the Master Ring, and you can save Smeagol from flipping from Smeagol to Golem.
Yeah,
right?
which could be helpful early on, because if you get Stinker early on, which flips them, that can really hurt you. Getting it later, like late game, not as hurtful.
Not as hurtful, and also this is one of those things where, it replaces an encounter card, and the chances you only put 2 copies of Smeagol in the encounter deck, so the chances of drawing 2 in a row are slim to none. Not that they don't exist, but the chances are very low. So now I know that I've just been cursed that every time I play Smeagol, I'm going to have this happen. But this is a case where that thing works out really well, because you get to pull that Master card right from the beginning. So you can, from the very beginning, you can prevent Smeagol from doing. So the Master card, the One Ring, is loving on Smeagol by preventing that from happening. Right? Does that, you see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
I'm just thinking that might be a way to probably. We were saying earlier about having 4 for 3 hunters in our last session. It could be one of the ways that you actually want to have Stinker come out, because of the fact that you want to get that.
Right. So there is a workaround for the 4 for 3 hunters that Grant has worked when we were talking about Legolas and Gimli, or when we will be talking, depending on how we release these. So,
Spoiler alert to the next.
Right.
If that episode hasn't been released when this is released.
Right. So what was the summary of that? What did we decide on that?
That it could be quite hard to get it out, because of the fact that you'd need Stinker to flip golems. So maybe you'd want to take one of the other Master cards if you're running that.
What is cute, though, too, just to mention, now that you bring up 3 hunters, Grant, is if you want to play One Ring in a 3 hunters deck, that counts towards one of your restricted attachments of the 6 you need to get into play.
Right. Yeah. Which is amazing, right?
Yeah. So,
and then if you pull one of the other sphere attachments, so if you put, because I assume there's going to be one for each sphere, and so you can pull Inner Strength with that with the One Ring, and so now that's 2 of your restricted.
Are they?
They're not restricted. I'm sorry.
I don't think they're
it's
restricted.
Just limit 1 per.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a shame. But let's get super technical. Just real quick, I'll do the super technical thing, is that if you're playing with a 50 card deck, the One Ring counts as one of those 50 cards, and then you're also pulling another card out of that. So now you're starting the game with a 48 card deck as opposed to a 50 card deck. So some people will lay their, a lot of people that are building decks love to get that little bit of percent advantage when you're drawing cards. So there's that can also help. If you're into that super technical mathy stuff. Me, I just build my squirrely whirly deck. Go to our Facebook page, you'll find out what that means.
So you're not into the super maths breakdown, are you not, David?
Well, I think there's a place in the game for it, but I don't necessarily think that, if it comes down to keeping, a really awesome card that I know is going to help my deck versus keeping it to 50 cards, I'm going to play the extra 1 card. I've run the numbers. I've done that, and I think the percentage difference is less than 1%. And also, you're talking about a percentage over time when we're doing this. So, this isn't this. However much I like to compare this to a game of poker, it's not a game of poker in that respect. So, poker odds are calculated, and if you have a 50% chance of doing something, that means that's what they call pretty good odds in poker, that half the time it's going to happen. The problem here is that you're not going to play a deck 50 times. I mean, you may, but you're not going to play a deck that many times that percentage can really even itself out over time. So you're still just stuck to kind of random stuff, so the percentages do make a difference. I'm not arguing the numbers. What I'm arguing is the play, is that, you may play that deck. Even if you play it 20 times, that's still not a big enough sample that it's going to even itself out.
So we should be playing Lord of the Rings, the card game, not Math, the game.
I think that that's the case, especially if it's such a small difference between adding a 50 card deck and and then one extra card, like a 51 card.
Yeah.
I think that the math there doesn't.
But I'm glad you pointed that out, David, because about the One Ring being a part of your deck, 'cause I think that's something that could be very easily overlooked. You're like, oh, it starts in play, so you might not count it as one of your 50 cards, but you're supposed to. So more of a PSA.
Right, and it's just for those people who are super mathy about the game. And I'm not knocking the super mathy people. I'm just saying, in my experience, it doesn't work itself out to actually be worth it for me the way that I play solo and very horribly. So how are we going to get this to work? So we're going to put the One Ring onto a hero. Like, is there a thematic way? Does it make sense to put it on Sam and Frodo?
Yeah, certainly. The new leadership version of Frodo that also came out in the same box. You get the thematic win of Frodo holding the One Ring, and leadership Frodo he has a character ready ability. And since you can't put the attachments on Gollum, that's a way to utilize. You mentioned other, effects, David. Yeah. That's a way to utilize his other stats, like his 2 attack, most likely, other than his 2 defense, without having an attachment. So there's certainly a pair for you.
Yeah, when you can ready another hero.
Love triad.
Right. And it's neat that it works with that it's Frodo that works, right? So the couple is here that we're talking about is Gollum or Smeagol in the One Ring, but it's neat that the thruple, as you've called it in past episodes or future episodes, who knows? That thruple with Frodo works. Now, how about Sam? How does Sam fit into that? Leadership Sam. So, Grant, you seem to love Leadership Sam. What do you think?
I think it could work. I mean, Sam is an all-round great hero, as we've discussed in previous episodes. And putting the One Ring on him and giving him the attachment for the power of command, giving him that 4 willpower to begin the game. And then, obviously, if you need to raise your threat, that's 5 willpower to begin with. You cannot really knock it. And he starts off with low threat. And he is technically classed as a ring bearer, even though he never actually wears the Ring of Power. Because he took the ring when Frodo was captured by the orcs
he bore the ring. He just... Yeah. Wasn't wearing the ring, right?
He was carrying the ring.
Right.
And so, thematically, yes, it works.
And I think that as a general rule, if you're playing Smeagol as a hero in a deck, so I have a deck that's like a Haldan deck, so it's all those attachments that help Haldan do everything, and then Smeagol, great pair with Smeagol, right? Because every time you travel, you get to draw a card and all this great stuff. So, there's all sorts of neat things that happen, and I use Spirit Glorfindel in there. So while that's not necessarily a thematic home run, you're starting off at 18 threat. So putting so going back to my mathy thing, like putting the One Ring and then just a copy of Stinker a copy of the thing that cancels Stinker. What is it? The Master Ring, putting a copy there, and then I just have the Master Ring just in case Stinker comes out one time at a bet. Like, that is great gameplay because I'm already low threat, and having the One Ring in play just helps me mitigate some of that stuff that's going. I can prevent stuff from happening. in that deck, I'm not necessarily trying to get a bunch of restricted attachments or attachments onto heroes. Haldan doesn't necessarily need attachments. Glorfindel loves to have attachments, but not many of them are necessarily restricted. So I don't know. It's
Oh yeah, those are great. You can put the power in power. I wish I could remember the name. Power of command on Glorfindel, which boosts his
earlier in
willpower.
the episode. I held it all together. Earlier in the episode, we called it word of command, and I was like, "Don't correct him, Dave. Don't correct him."
Oh yeah, word of command's the lore event that lets you start with a star. Right. Yeah. But that boosts Glorfindel's willpower, which then you could combo with Fair and Perilous, which boosts his event that boosts his attack by his willpower, which you then boosted. And another kind of quirky honorable mention I wanted to bring up with Smeagol is Lanwin, because Lanwin is the hero that once a surge card is revealed, you can ready Lanwin or boost your willpower. And if you're playing with Smeagol, you're adding more surge cards to the deck, increasing, So you're like, oh, okay, so she readies, and then you could use her action to then, I don't know, it's kind of like a net zero, because then you need actions to hit Gollum to back into Smeagol, but it's something,
Yeah, no, it's something to keep in mind. How often do we ever bring up Lanwin when we're talking about cards to build a deck with?
Right.
But I think that in general, that this is a good pairing. It's not necessarily the best pairing, but I think that these cards go together really well. Does that make sense? Like, you don't need to build a deck with both of these. Okay? But
certainly.
I think that it hits a thematic thing. So with these couples February episodes, we really haven't been ringing the couple, because if if they wanted to, they would have already put a ring on it. Anyways, but
we got a Polly Shore impression, and we got David to sing in this episode.
Singing Beyonce, yeah, and I'm the one that edits them. Okay. But
good job I had my record button pressed then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Grant's in charge of the outtakes episodes. But we have been not ringing them, but we have been talking like one little summary, and then we've been doing thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down. So Grant, why don't you summarize, give your little summary, and then talk about whether this is a thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down.
I think this pairing, although maybe not the strongest of pairs we've had on so far, is definitely a pair that has potential with what's due to come out. So I'm going to give it a thumbs to the side in preparation of what's coming out. So I have more information.
Okay. I'll go next. Ted, you're up for last. I can tell that I don't know exactly, but I feel like you're putting together all sorts of funny things to talk about. So my little summary is that I think that there's no reason, if you're running Smeagol, because his threat is so low, that you shouldn't run a copy of the One Ring on something else. Plus, it gives you access to other things. I think that it's fun to play thematically. I don't think you necessarily have to play it, and I don't necessarily think that these cards have to go together in a couples themed deck. But I think it works nicely together. So I think that in terms of that, it's not like you have to play them all the time together, or that it's not that like they're forced together. But I think they, when you put them together, they work really nicely, as opposed to some of the other ones. Like, they're really fun to put together, and you have to kind of play them together, but they don't work really well nicely. So it's funny how all these couples work this way. So I would give this normally a thumbs up, or a thumbs to the side. I want to go in between the two, thumbs to the upper right, but I'm gonna give it thumbs to the side, because I don't think you necessarily have to play both of these together in the same deck to get that couple that couple loving that you want. So, Ted, what do you got?
Well, David, I think these cards are great.
Perfect. Okay, so Gandalf, and we're done.
Elaborate why they're great. You guys both made some really good points. Because they really don't interact directly with each other. If anything, they act inversely of each other. Because One Ring lowers your threat elimination, and Smeagol raises your threat level, bringing you closer to being eliminated.
Right.
And then the cards that go with the One Ring also raise your threat. So if anything, they are dangerous to run together, and that does hit a thematic win, right? Like, you shouldn't put these cards together. They're not supposed to go together. So and here we are trying to put them together, but it creates such a sense like thematic sense. It's like they really don't go together. Like they give you this benefit, but it's like it's more like malignant, I guess. Like
it's a toxic relationship.
Yeah, it's more of it's like a parasite, right? Type of, like, he's kind of like a parasite. You're getting benefits from it, but like it's not good. It's much akin to the effect of, it's straight in line with like Grima, right? Like getting doomed for playing cards at a cheaper cost. Speaking of a card not to put with these two, it's Grima. But it's super fun to play. And it is a fun couple. So still thumbs up for me, because every card's good all the time.
Yeah, they're just fun to play. So that's great. So that is our couple of the One Ring and Smeagol/Gollum. So join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day, everybody. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.